Hi, I'm Lucy from Sew Essential, and today I'm going to teach you how to diagnose and fix tension issues with your overlocker so you can feel more confident using it and spend less time stressing and more time sewing. Let's get started. Now, the word overlocker or serger in America can strike fear into the heart of many a sewist, but the reality is, once you understand them and how they work and how the stitches are formed, they're really not that complicated to troubleshoot or to use, and it's so worth getting confident with these machines because they will give your sewing projects so much more of a professional finish, and they are great for sewing knit and jersey garments too. There are two key issues that people face when using an overlocker. The first one is threading, and then the second one is tension. So the first thing to do is to make sure you've threaded your machine correctly. That is absolutely crucial. And on our website, you'll find links to our website below. We stock a wide range of overlockers, and for many of them there are step-by-step tutorials on our website of exactly how to thread the machine and lots of examples of stitches you can do with them too. So it's definitely worth getting on and taking a look at that. There are examples of manual threading overlockers, air threading overlockers, all the different types. Air threading overlockers are a lot easier to thread than the manual threaders, and if you need any advice or guidance about any of this, do get in touch with us because we are experts and we're always very happy to help. We want to help you choose the right overlocker for you, but also if you've already bought one from us, we will support you as well to make sure you get the most out of that machine. So first things first, make sure you've watched one of my videos, you've threaded your machine correctly. I would also recommend threading it in 4 different colours so that you can easily diagnose which of the 4 threads is causing a tension issue. And just one top tip when you're threading, always make sure you've got the foot up on your overlocker when you're threading. This opens the tension discs, and you'll actually see, if you actually peer down the side of one of the tension discs as you raise the presser foot, you will see those tension discs open. If you don't do that, the thread won't go through the tension discs, and then already you're going to have a problem. So your first step is thread the machine correctly, watch my videos, step-by-step tutorials how to do that, thread in 4 different colours, make sure you get the thread through the tension discs. Then onto tension, that's where people have an issue, and I'm going to show you now exactly what it looks like for each of the threads when there is an issue, whether the thread is too tight or too loose, what those results will look like, so that when you sew something you can compare to the samples I'm showing you and you can work out and diagnose which problem you're experiencing. And before I show you the samples, I just want to show you the basic anatomy of the overlocker so it makes sense when I'm referring to the tension dials and the different threads on the samples. So this is the Brother 303 4D overlocker, which is a great entry-level, reasonably priced manual threading overlocker. You can purchase this one on our site as well as the full Brother range, and we've also got the Janome range, the Baby Lock range, Husqvarna and Pfaff as well. You'll find that step-by-step video how to thread it, how to use it on our website as well, so do take a look at that. But most overlockers will have the same sorts of principles. So you will have a lower looper, an upper looper, a right needle and a left needle. And I've used different coloured threads on those so that it'll be really clear what we're referring to. And then each of those threads has a corresponding tension dial. So you can see here on the Brother, they're numbered, they usually are, and the Brother has put lines between numbers 3 to 5 because that's your sort of standard tension that you'll use for most fabrics. But then if you need to, you can increase the tension right up to number 9, or you can decrease it right down to number 0. So when I'm showing you the samples, if I'm saying the thread tension on this sample is too loose, you would want to increase the thread tension and increase that number. if I was saying the thread tension is too tight, you would want to reduce the tension and reduce that number. And I also want to point out here that there are overlockers that don't have these tension dials at all, and that's because they automatically set the thread tension for you. So if you're somebody who wants maximum ease of use and you don't want to have to worry about setting tensions or adjusting tensions, you should definitely have a look at some of those models. All of the Baby Lock range, apart from the entry-level model, have the automatic thread tension, and they're all available on our site. They also all have easy jet air threading. So if you're somebody who just wants to, make life as simple as possible and you don't want to have to think about this, do check those models out on our website. They've all got step-by-step in-depth videos on them too. But if you have got a manual overlocker or you're going to get a manual overlocker, stay with me because I am going to give you the confidence to use this. It really isn't that complicated, and I'm going to show you those samples and give you that confidence right now. So the first thing I want to do is show you a nice balanced stitch so you know what it should look like and what you're aiming for. On this sample you can see I've got the left needle in orange or yellow, and that runs parallel to the right needle, which is in red. And then we've got the upper looper thread in this dark bottle green colour, which is running through in and out of those two parallel lines of stitching. And that is how the upper looper thread is secured to the fabric, because it is stitched down by those needle threads. And understanding that is important because you understand then how the threads relate to each other, which again helps with diagnosing any issues. On the back of the fabric, we have the lower looper thread, which is in blue, and you can see that the needle threads on this side of the fabric are barely visible. There's a tiny little pinprick that you can see if you look very, very closely, but you shouldn't really be able to see your needle threads on that side of the fabric. You should just be seeing your lower looper thread on that side of the fabric. And then you'll also notice that the threads aren't overhanging the edge. That lower looper thread is finishing neatly on the underside of the fabric, and then the upper looper thread is finishing neatly on the upper side of the fabric. If we take a look at an example of the lower looper being too tight, you can see here on the right side of the fabric, or the upper side of the fabric, we can see our upper looper thread doing its thing. That looks okay. We can see our two parallel lines of needle stitches. I can feel a little bit of tunnelling going on there, so I can see that the fabric's almost being squeezed, so I can tell there probably is some tightness going on. But if I flip the sample over, the telltale signs are all here on that underside of the fabric, the lower side of the fabric. You can tell the lower looper thread is barely visible there. You haven't got that nice sort of zigzaggy stitch there. And what you can see is the upper looper thread in the dark green has been pulled round onto the other side of the fabric. Because the lower looper thread's so tight, it's pulling the thread from the upper layer of fabric down onto the bottom. So that's how we can tell if that lower looper thread is too tight. And if that's the case, if the lower looper thread is too tight, you want to reduce your lower looper tension. So you want to reduce the number on the tension dial. Now let's take a look at the opposite issue with the lower looper. So if our lower looper is too loose, what happens is our lower looper thread, the blue thread, gets pulled all the way round onto the right side of the fabric. So this is the right side here, and we can see lots of blue thread coming onto the right side. It's distorted the upper looper stitches as well, and if we look at the wrong side there, there's not a great deal to see there, but the telltale signs are all here on that right side of the fabric. Your lower looper thread should be visible only on the lower fabric, the underside of the fabric, not the upper side of the fabric. So if your lower looper tension is too loose, then you need to tighten your lower loop tension, so you would just increase the number on the dial for the lower looper. Next, we'll take a look at the upper looper example. So for the upper looper, we've got an example of it being too tight here. The upper looper is the green thread, and you can see that it's so tight that it's pulling the blue thread, which is the lower looper, round onto that upper side or the right side of the fabric. Because that upper looper is so tight, it's pulling that lower looper thread round, and that is on the right side of the fabric, and that shouldn't be visible on that side. And then on the back, it doesn't look too bad. That looks fairly neat. But again, we can see the fabric's being squeezed there. But the real telltale signs here are that that upper looper thread is so tight that it's pulling the lower looper thread onto the upper or the right side of the fabric. If the upper looper thread is too loose, again, some signs on this right side of the fabric, things don't look quite right there. But if we turn it over, we can see here that that upper looper thread is so loose that it's actually coming all the way round onto the lower side of the fabric, or the wrong side of the fabric. It's so loose, it's just getting pulled round by that lower looper, and it's visible on that wrong side or lower side of the fabric, and it shouldn't be. It should only be visible on the upper side or the right side of the fabric. Here's an example of the right needle being too tight. So the right needle is the red one, and you can see that it's so tight that it's affecting the upper and lower looper threads, and they're both not really where they're supposed to be. They're both in a bit of a mess, sort of showing on that upper side of the fabric, and you can see that the fabric is being concertinaed as well. It's being sort of compressed because of the tightness of that right needle as well. On the wrong side, you know, we can just see that compression of the fabric. We can't tell a lot else, but it is really obvious on that right side of the fabric that that right needle is just too tight, and it's really affecting the formation of those upper and lower looper stitches as a result. If the right needle is too loose, you can see here where the stitches are formed on the right side of the fabric. Rather than being individual stitches, it almost just looks like one long line of thread. But then also, if we turn over, we can see that that right needle is too loose, because the right needle threads now are starting to loop and be very visible on the wrong side of the fabric, and we should only ever be able to see those little pinpricks of the needle thread. So that's a really good telltale sign there that there's something wrong with your right needle. If your left needle's too tight, you can see we've got similar problems to the right needle. You can see the fabric being compressed, and also you can see that it's very, very tight. There's no gap really between where those upper looper threads link round that left needle. Whereas on the balance stitch, if we take a look at that, you can see some definition of those needle stitches and gaps between the needle stitches, and then the little bit of upper looper thread that you can see. But you can see where it's tight, it's very, very close together. There isn't really any definition there at all. And then on the wrong side of the fabric again, it's not as obvious to us. We can see that compression and contortion of the fabric, but you can just see there, that's your telltale sign there that, you know, those that left needle is too tight. And then finally, if your left needle is too loose, you can see here that it's not forming the stitches properly. It's been pulled across by the right needle, so you haven't got those lovely defined stitches running parallel to the right needle. The right needle's pulling that left needle thread into its own stitch really, and it's sort of all getting mixed up together with the upper looper thread as well. And you can just see these little yellow lines here with where that left thread is getting pulled because it's so loose. And then on the wrong side again, we can see lots of looping there. We can see that left needle thread getting pulled onto the wrong side because it's so loose. So I hope those samples have helped you to see how you can diagnose these issues. I definitely highly recommend creating some samples yourself like these to refer back to, and then if ever you're having issues, you know, it's very, very easy to look back and work out what you need to do, what the remedial action is. And finally, my top tip really is I think a lot of problems come when somebody sits down to do a sewing project, wants to get stuck in straight away, and they're rushing to try and get on with that. They incur a problem with the machine, and then, you know, the frustration comes because your plan was to do the sewing. If you earmark an hour to just set aside one day to say, I'm not going to be doing a sewing project, I am literally just going to be getting to know my machine, doing some samples, testing things out so I understand how it works, I think that will pay back dividends then. And then when you come to do sewing projects at a later date, if there are any issues, you know how to handle them because you've put that time into learning and just building your confidence with the machine, if that makes sense. I think the issues come when somebody thinks, right, I'm going to make this dress today, sits down, there's an issue with the tension, they don't know how to fix it, the time's running away, you're panicking, no, I'm supposed to be making my dress today. Whereas if you've already put the time in to understand what I've taught you today, you know, you will know straight away, oh, that's the right needle thread that's the issue there, I'll sort that now, you know. So it really will help and it really does pay back dividends. I also wanted to mention there are lots and lots of other videos on getting the best out of your overlocker on my channel. We've got 2 top tips videos for your overlocker. One of them is our most popular video of all time. We've also got a video how to sew a dress from start to finish on your overlocker. So I'll pop links to those below, but do check them out and do like and subscribe to our channel because that sort of content comes every month. We release a new video every week, lots and lots of inspiration and ideas for you as well as tutorials. And do sign up for our weekly newsletter as well because I share all of that information on there as well every week. So I hope you've enjoyed this today and I'll very much look forward to seeing you next time.